When the ancient city of Mohenjodaro was being excavated, archaeologists were shocked to find skeletons of people who seemed to have received a very unexpected death. One such skeleton was of a child who was holding the hands of his father and mother, and they were on the street. Then suddenly something happened, something so violent that in the blink of an eye, the whole city was reduced to ashes. Later studies showed that all the skeletons found were highly radioactive. The amount of radiation was similar to that which was observed after the nuclear explosions at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The walls and bricks of the ancient city were melted and vitrified. Not a single evidence of a fierce clash or battle was found. No impact crater was discovered to point to meteoric strikes. There was no evidence of any volcanic eruption near the area. So how was this city completely annihilated, and the debris shows such high amounts of radiation?
Experimentation on the human brain goes back centuries, with evidence in the form of ancient skeletons with large chunks of skull having been surgically removed. Some cultures believe that by removing a portion of the skull, pressure could be released and ailments cured, or even higher levels of consciousness achieved. With this in mind, in the 1940s, Portuguese neurologist Antonio Moniz created and standardized the modern lobotomy. The procedure was conducted by first shocking a patient into a stupor, then inserting a long metal instrument into their head via their eye socket, which would then be hammered through the orbital bone, which can be as thin as an eggshell. The metal rod would then be stroked back and forth with the intention of disconnecting the prefrontal cortex with the rest of the brain. The effect was said to reduce the complexity of psychic life. In actuality, the doctors were producing severe brain damage from which most patients never recovered, with several deaths being kept from the public eye. It's no surprise that some of the most horrific experiments in the name of science were conducted by Nazis in concentration camps. Led by physician and SS officer Joseph Mengele, who would be nicknamed the Angel of Death, the focus of the experiments was to prove the Nazi premise of superiority of the Aryan race. The doctor took a special interest in twins and would conduct horrific experiments on unknown numbers, likely in the thousands, involving the removal of limbs, injecting chloroform directly into the heart, and having one twin killed to observe the reaction of the other. The most demented experiment involved sewing two children together in an attempt to create conjoined twins. They would soon die from gangrene, but not before suffering for days, as would most of Mengele's test subjects. Scientific experimentation on animals and human beings has led to treatments and cures to countless conditions and diseases. But at what point do these experiments cross the line and amount to cruel and barbaric torture hidden behind the veil of scientific research? Many scientists agree that at least the initial building blocks of life could have been brought here billions of years ago, as massive chunks of ice crashed here, forming our oceans. So it's very possible that life as we know it was seeded from space. But could this have been intentional? The concept of directed panspermia describes the deliberate transport of microorganisms in space. Nobel Prize winner Francis Crick has proposed that life may have been purposely spread by an advanced extraterrestrial civilization, either by sending the seeds for life out from its planet in all directions, hoping to strike a fertile planet like Earth, or perhaps intentionally planting early life specifically on Earth. Astronomer Thomas Gold has theorized the cosmic garbage hypothesis, in which life on Earth started as a byproduct of waste being dumped on this planet millions of years ago by aliens passing through our solar system. So essentially, the smelly bacteria growing on their trash evolved into you, me, and everyone we know. Fungi or mushroom spores are incredibly durable, with the shell being one of the hardest materials found in organic nature. In fact, the shell of some spores are so dense with electrons it approaches that of gold, an almost superconducting metal. Spores such as this, suspended in the vacuum of space with an electromagnetic charge, could actually create a current that would repel deadly space radiation, making them perfect interstellar transport seeds. Time traveler inspired this painting from 1860, which seems to depict a woman typing on a cell phone. Is this man on a beach in 1943 texting the future? In 2000, a man named John Titor began posting online that he had traveled back in time from the year 2036, answering questions and sharing details of the future before disappearing less than a year later. Titor claimed he was part of a governmental time travel project, and his mission was to collect an IBM 5100 computer from 1975, needed to debug various legacy computer programs. Titor claimed to be stopping in the year 2000 for personal reasons, reasons, and shared details and drawings of his time travel device, which he described as a stationary mass temporal displacement unit powered by 2 topspin dual positive singularities. This description references actual time travel theoretical technology. Titor also warned of an impending civil war in the United States before disappearing and never being heard from again. In 1996, as a guest on the popular radio show Coast to Coast with Art Bell, a man named Mike Markham claimed to be building a working time machine. He allegedly had success with a smaller device, having thrown a screw into a vortex it created and then having the screw reappear a few feet away a half a second later. Thanks to the radio show, Mark was able to raise money and parts to create a much larger device designed to run at 3 megawatts. Apparently, the machine required a massive amount of energy and utilized a rotating magnetic field. When asked what he would take with him on his planned time travel journey, Mark replied, only his cell phone. The following year, Mark disappeared. None of his friends had any idea where he could have gone, and he was never heard from again. When it was brought up on the radio show, a caller noted a police report he discovered of a body being found on a California beach in the 1930s. The body appeared to be crushed from all directions as if it were shoved into a metal tube. The police report also notes a strange metal and plastic device found near the body, which today could be identified as a cell phone. In 2003, a man named Andrew Carlson was supposedly arrested on SEC violations for making 126 high-risk stock trades and being successful on every single one. It was reported that Carlson had started with an initial investment of only $800 and had compounded his gains to $350 million before being caught. After his arrest, he allegedly submitted a 4-hour confession in which he claimed to be from 200 years in the future and requested permission to return to his craft. A mysterious man posted his bail, but Carlson missed his court hearing and was never heard from again. Records show no such birth certificate exists for Andrew Carlson. Scientists are working to perfect life extension technology so that one day soon dying will be a choice. Living forever might sound like a dream, but could it turn into a nightmare? The first generation to adopt permanent life extension technology will become the world's ruling class. The jobs that require expertise and experience will be dominated by these lifers, and since they will need income to pay for their treatments, retiring would never be an option. As technology advances, low-wage and labor-intensive jobs will be taken by robots. These will leave whole generations of young people with no way of making money, and hence no way of accessing the life extension treatments themselves. Generations will be born and die off, all while the first and only generation with access to permanent life extension hoards the technology and lives on. You've worked hard, made plenty of money, and you've decided to take on the new medical treatment that enables you to live forever. The cost of these treatments are likely substantial, so not everyone can partake. Will you choose infinite life while your friends and family slowly die off all around you? Will you be able to pay for your partner to join you, or your children? How common will it be for lifers to attend funerals of their children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren? Perhaps the guilt of long life and the knowledge and wisdom gained over hundreds of years will inspire the undying to depart from this planet altogether, taking it upon themselves to spread humanity across the solar system and deep into space. This would free up jobs and resources for new generations on Earth. It could be that legally one is required to depart for new planets once they've lived the length of an average human life, but maybe some will not wish to leave and will rally their vast fortunes and expertise to resist. Instead, they may force new generations to move to other planets, with Earth being the high luxury home of the undying, while millions work under dangerous and horrid conditions on other planets to support the lifestyles of the rich and deathless on Earth. The odds of permanent life treatments working perfectly right away are slim. The body is in a constant state of change, with genetic mutations caused by the environment constantly taking place. Living for hundreds or even thousands of years could bring with it unwanted genetic mutations, perhaps nothing that could kill you but could augment your body. Would you choose to live a very long time if it meant taking on certain genetic deformities? Could these deformities lead to all new versions of human beings? Natural selection not through new generations, but through the slow genetic change of the same person over thousands or millions of years. What would a million-year-old person wish to do with their day? Having lived tens of thousands of lives, felt every possible emotion and every imaginable experience, these lifers will have done and seen everything there is to do and see. Once every drop of novelty and newness has been squeezed out of existence, could one day all deaths be suicides chosen after a seemingly endless life? Could boredom ultimately be the largest cause of death? Greek philosopher Pythagoras believed that all creatures were being punished by the gods by imprisoning their souls in earthly bodies. By this thinking, would life extension permanently trap us in a physical prison cell? Or is this life truly the only experience we'll ever have, and so our goal should be to extend it as long as possible? But who will have this right, and who will be left behind? Joy of Satan Ministries was founded in 2002 by Maxine Dietrich and claims to be a synthesis of theistic Satanism, Nazism, and Gnostic paganism. They believe that Satan and the demons are in fact sentient and powerful extraterrestrial beings responsible for the creation of humanity, and that Enki, the Sumerian god of creation, is Satan. They are anti-Semitic, believing that the alien known as Satan created the white race, and that an evil group of aliens known as the reptilians created the Jewish, Islamic, and Christian religions in order to program and control human beings. Exposed to space's vacuum, you'll begin to experience ebullition, the formation of gas bubbles in bodily fluids from reduced environmental pressure. Essentially, your blood and every other fluid in your body will begin to boil, not from heat, but from lack of pressure. In 1960, Joseph Kittinger ascended to a height of 19 miles in a helium balloon to skydive from space. On the way up, a leak occurred and his right hand's glove failed to pressurize. As the fluids in his hand evaporated, Kittinger's hand swelled to twice its size and felt like it was being poked with thousands of burning hot needles. He successfully made his jump and re-entry to Earth, and it took several hours, but his hand recovered. Had his whole body been exposed to the lack of pressure, the swelling and evaporation would have caused incredible pain and ultimately death.